Good evening. This is Evolutionary Television coming to you from Facebook, Evolutionary Healer page. I'm Terry Earthwind Nichols, your host at Evolutionary TV, along with my beautiful wife,
Linda Nichols.
Well, it's been 10 weeks. This is the wrap-up show. 10 weeks to suicide prevention. One day, one moment in time, something happened to you. What if you could get it back?
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? Right? What we have found is, and we'll talk about it a little bit more tonight, what we have found in our research in repetitive behavior cellular regression, what we call the CR process, is there is an amnesic event or a memory that occurred usually pre-language, very early on in childhood. Behavioral health is just really starting to grab a hold of this. They're a little behind us. I like that. And what happened is something severely emotional happened to you, and it walled off. Nothing's broken. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It walled off that memory so you can't go back and retrieve it. That is a fail-safe system within our human mind. Nothing's broken, nothing's diseased or anything. But here's what happens. The deflection system that is created by that is then in control of future events. Every time you have another significant emotional event, it is not put into an amnesic memory, but the deflection system uses it to protect itself from you finding this memory. And because it was such an early event in your childhood, you couldn't even tell anybody it happened because you couldn't even speak the language yet. So what ultimately happens is these other events chain together and they start repeating themselves. And the more they repeat, the more the brain and your body reacts to that consistent emotion going through your body. And after a while, after a few years, it thinks that that's normal. That's your new normal. Okay. So, Linda, you want to hop in on that?
Yeah. Well, have you ever heard of ACEs? Adult childhood experiences is what ACEs are. And there's even a quiz. So if you would like to take that quiz, we can provide you with that as well to just see how you add up as far as how many ACEs that you've actually had in your past. That would be more like known experiences that would pick up. But experiences from childhood, that would really affect you as an adult.
Well, this is week 10 of our 10 weeks, as I mentioned earlier. And tonight's the wrap-up show, so we're just going to kind of go back over comments that people have come to us with in the chat. A lot of people, almost nobody, comments in the news feed, which is fine because it's confidential information. They shouldn't, okay? But we thank you for reaching out to us and asking those questions, and we're glad to have the opportunity to help you with those questions in those regards.
You can always reach out to us on our contact button.
Contact button here on Evolutionary Healer Facebook page, you bet. Mm-hmm. So we started out with what drives our behaviors. In early childhood, when it's pre-language, if like we talked about, something happens that's very emotional, you can't tell anybody about because you don't know how. You don't even know how to understand it. So later on, that behavior is then trapped, okay? Week 2, repetitive behaviors and what drive them. Well, that's what this is all about. Repetitive behavior for our work is when you make a decision to start or stop something in your life, lose weight, go on a diet, stop smoking, shut off the movie player in your head, whatever it is, and you're not able to do that 2 or more times, that's a repetitive behavior. Now, I'm being very specific here that this is a behavior, not a disorder. Nothing's broken in there. There's no disease. This is a behavior. And science also agrees that behaviors can be modified. What they don't know is we know how to find where the trigger button is, okay? Where that on-off switch is. That's what we like to call it. Mm-hmm. And so the driver behind that is what we just explained when we talk about this amnesic event. We have named that the active block because it's very active in there, and it's supposed to be. It's protecting you. It's its job. It's doing its work. Okay. And do you want to add anything to that?
Well, we also in week 2 talked about the difference between like blind spots and the active block. And if you've ever been in at a coaching event, the coach, someone will come up to the mic and it'll be kind of the hot seat person, and the coach can, ferret out exactly what's going on, and the whole audience can see it too, and the person up at the mic just cannot see it. It's their blind spot. So we can see everybody else's blind spots, not so much our own head's blind spot.
Right.
And with the active block, though, that's something that the coaches aren't able to pick up, and even like in psychotherapy, and we'll explain that in a little bit too. So that we did talk about difference between the blind spot and the active block.
What Linda was talking about, we call them tags, okay? And
blind spots.
The blind spots are tags. Those are things that you can remember, but you can't do anything about. The neural pathway, or where your hidden memory is located back there, there's a pathway back to that through your brain, and that path is created when the memory is created. Well, what happens to the deflection system is it puts a filter in there. The filter allows energy to go out, neural energy to go out to deflect, but it doesn't allow anything to come back. So we call those filters, tags, filters in the active block. Okay. So in week 3, we talked about the deflection system and amnesia. Well, Linda, you want to hop in on this?
Yeah, well, amnesia as if, well, for lack of better words, forgotten memory from childhood. And so the active block it creates like an amnesic-like state around a memory. And the active block, like we said, it's active because it protects, it deflects, it distracts, and man, does it divert anybody who gets anywhere near it. It's really amazing. And we get to it by going in what we call the back door. We're going to get to that a little bit later. So, and then in week 4, we talked about the active block and what drives it, and it's that walled off memory from childhood. And it can be something unpleasant, and it can also be something like not a real big deal, like 2 sisters, we use that example often at the lemonade stand, and dad comes by and says, "You're not going to make any money at that." One sister takes it on like life and death, and the other one, doesn't. And again, it's not a memory that the client has any access to until we find the active block. But that literally has been an active block that we have found, and it was really affecting her life. Anytime she had a job, it was like, if I lose my job, I'm going to be, starving and then dying, and it had a real hold on her life. Lots of fear around money.
Absolutely. And as soon as we found that block, snapped right out of it.
Yeah.
And this has been 6 years now, I think, since we took her through it. Mm-hmm. And she's just doing terrific. She's got a normal life. It's kind of interesting because she was one of those who was introduced to the actual personality she started out with, which is quite amazing.
Yeah. And I thought of something to say there. You want to jump in again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We've been putting out a few testimonials during these 10 weeks. And one of them was we literally got an email about 3 months after a client had gone through the CR process with us. It's a 30-day VIP experience, and in the email she said, I didn't tell you guys this. However, I was $30,000 in debt, and I just want to let you guys know that I'm completely out of debt, and I'm doing what I really wanted to be doing in the first place. And I was like, what? And we do have like the CR session, and then there is 7 days of journaling, and then there's a phone call. And then on day 15, we have a phone call where we work on someone's business, if they have a business, or on their life. And then day 30 is kind of our well baby checkup. So we did work on her business, and she turned everything around. She was a social worker. She was doing, what is that? With the therapy with the horses, equine therapy. And that's not what she wanted to be doing. So she ended up hiring some social workers who knew how to do that. And so she was able to continue helping kids with special needs at her ranch. And then she opened her ranch up to doing seminars and workshops and retreats with adults
from all over the country. Wonderful story.
Yeah.
Wonderful story.
She also didn't want to house them at the ranch. So she got it set up where they stayed in a hotel and they were shuttled into the ranch. And so she kind of got a break at the end of the day. And, we always work with people's energy and how much energy they have to, put into their business as well.
Yeah. Great story. Week 5, we went over what's out there. Okay, what's in behavioral health, psychotherapy, the different modalities, and what that means to the CR process. And basically, what we have found from my own experience going through psychotherapy and a number of different modalities, is they basically numb you out on whatever's bothering you. You go over it and over it and over again until it no longer bothers you. But then what happens for me, especially because I know directly, a couple of 3 months later, it starts coming up again. And then what do? I go back to my psychiatrist or whoever it is I was working with, and we do it again. 3 or 4 months later, the same thing would happen. It's like, I'm a lifelong patient. I don't want that. And so my repeated self-sabotage is what set me on this path in the first place. Mm-hmm. For some of you who know, and this is the reason why I'm here doing this suicide prevention. In late 2009, I was on the 28-story roof of the 28-story building that I was living in. One more step off the side of the roof and I was ready to go. And friends, I was standing there. I wasn't panicked. I wasn't crying. I wasn't doing anything. I was perfectly calm. And a little voice inside of me or behind me or something, you call it what you like, said, turn around, I've got work for you. And I turned around, came over the retainer wall and walked away. 3 months later, this work began. It's amazing how things go. But I know suicide ideation. I was there, okay?
We hadn't even met yet.
No.
Yeah. And so with psychotherapy, it's a lot of talk therapy sometimes. And, it's really starting on that frontal level and going back and also, working on the cognitive level. And then modalities, EMDR, EFT, the list goes on and on, come in from the side and they, get down a few levels. And what we do is we work from the back of the brain forward, and we sneak in the back door of that active block. And we all do 3 memories, and these aren't necessarily memories the client remembers. Sometimes they're memories that they do. They do come up. We house all our memories in our cells anyways. And we just kind of go younger and younger. And then just with a few memories like that, we're able to weave through the memories, and bam, the client just gets to that event, that active block, that hidden and forgotten memory from early childhood that's been running their life, that's energetically putting out kind of the same energy, drawing in repetitive patterns of behavior, of events, of people, same type of guy, or whatever it is. So it's just been so fascinating. And when we do, when the client does arrive at the active block, it's almost like it unplugs from the wall, as if it's a whole chain of Christmas tree lights, all those events. Because like with PTSD, and we're really good with PTSD and complex PTSD, because we're so good at keeping people out of emotion, and that keeps them from triggering. We'll get into that in a little bit later tonight too. So
matter of fact,
real quick,
we're about to.
It just, as it unplugs all the other events. And so with PTSD, it's really on a day when your neural system is in like a super weakened state, and it's like kind of like a major triggering event. Well, then, sooner or later, it draws another super triggering event, and then another one, and that's how you get into complex PTSD. So the beauty of this work is that it just unplugs everything and stays unplugged. Now you have control. You can plug it back in if you want to. Trust me, you won't want to.
Yeah. So how do we do this? How do we take somebody to a memory, keeping them out of story, and all of a sudden, boom, they're in someplace? Well, we know, and it's common knowledge, that the sense of smell is the number one route or way of triggering memory recall, synchronizing conscious and subconscious thought. And so when we have them get to a memory, we freeze frame, and then we don't want to hear the story. We don't want to know Uncle Bob's bad habit with picking his nose or whatever. We freeze frame. So what are you going to do with that freeze frame? So now you have a photo. The person is completely present with that photo, and we ask them, please describe for me, one thing at a time, what do you smell? And they give us an inventory of what they smell. Then we go on to the next sense, and the next, and the next.
Not a story around what they're smelling,
right,
or why they're smelling.
Not why, it's just there.
Yep.
Okay?
And that's how we keep people fully present. And their eyes are closed. That's another way to keep them fully present, as well as out of emotion.
And it keeps them in a very high state of trust with us.
Yes.
Okay, because there's no emotion there. There's no ego throwing questions out.
We're pretty much soul to soul with our clients.
Right.
And in psychotherapy, it's about, just that whole storyline. And, even with like PTSD, tell that PTSD story. We never go near the PTSD story. We don't talk about that, and we don't need to. So we're not numbing out somebody's, post-traumatic stress story. So
that works well with week 7, when we were talking about how you stop the emotions of a memory so you can concentrate. 3 basic things. You keep the eyes closed, so you shut off all motion around you in your conscious thought, and you stay with just the facts in the inventory as we ask you, and then you freeze frame. Those are the biggies there. So,
and freeze frame the memory, and means instead of playing a movie of the memory, you just, whatever you arrived at, you just hold everybody in place. There might be other people in the memory, and like all motion of the memory stops, so that you can give us an inventory of what is, in front of you, above you, around you.
Yeah, and another thing that happens is we talked about in week 8, and that's how to be a body detective. I talked to you earlier about crossed arms, and things like that in one of the earlier episodes, where this is a conditioned response. I'm not buying. But the tip to the left is not a conditioned response. It's a subconscious awareness. Okay, that's a buy sign. That means you love, trust, left side of the body from center to left. It's love, trust, confidence, ready to go, fully present. Okay, no questioning. You get a baby, first start right over that heart, right over the heart. And so talking about body language. A person who is fully present and completely out of emotion can give us, by body movements while they're talking, can give us indicators.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're going through the five senses, maybe a movement in one way or another can give us an indicator of where we're going to go next.
Mm-hmm.
And is there, in the sense of smell, if we're sitting on a lake and you smell popcorn, or you smell cotton candy, maybe not. Maybe you are eating some popcorn, but if you're not eating it later when you say what you taste, those are missing, odd, and can't be remembered information. Those are significant clues to us on where we're going. Because where we ultimately get, the subconscious is actually telling us where we're going to go.
Yep.
You just got to pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's body detector. I love that. It's just, I'm writing a book on it.
Yeah.
So, there's about 800 books out there on Amazon alone about some way of reading body languages, not the way I do it. I use complete subconscious reading. So in week nine is just really cool. This is, I'm going to give to Linda, because creating healthy detachment from the day-to-day things that happen in your life is very crucial to staying out of that system you just got disconnected from. Linda?
Right. Yeah, well, not attaching your emotions to things or events, and really getting in touch with your own needs and your own wants is just like super important to good mental health. So rather than creating a story around an event, right? That part really reminds me of like the police officer, like you said before, just the facts, man, just the facts, right? So what are the facts? And you can even use this in like communication with another person. And this is actually my background, special ed, and I love neuro stuff too. And it's kind of like your thoughts, my thoughts, our thoughts. And Terry and I don't fight much. We do get into that, your thoughts, my thought, our thoughts. And he's not as strong as I am in that one. And so he'll react versus putting, thoughts into the center and making no decision, just looking at the facts. Yeah. So then you can make a decision from there, because if you have a perception and you're coming in a certain way, things look a certain way to you. And when the other person tells you what their perception is and what they've been thinking, it can really change your thought process. It's like, oh, wow, and that wasn't my intention. And well, then it isn't as important to me as I thought, or vice versa, right? And together you can make a decision. Yeah,
right.
It's huge.
Creating a healthy detachment for you personally is significant. Let's say you go through the CI process today, and 3 months down the road, you hear or smell or something highly emotional happens to you. You see a car crash, whatever it is, and you trigger, and you don't know what the trigger is all about, but you felt it before. That's your body kicking in this deflection system, going, okay, Terry, do you want me to protect you from this? I'll take care of it. Well, we teach our people that you ask yourself 3 questions. And these are the 3 questions. What have my 5 senses just triggered? Where's a memory anywhere in my past where that sense is replicated, what triggered me right now? Mm-hmm. And as soon as I get to that memory, who's the first face in that memory that triggered me? And I neutralize them. There's some neutralizing wording that we use, and we teach our clients to use them. I use them, okay? I use them almost every day, because I don't even want to go to the trigger point. Right. I know something's about to upset me, and I'll go through the 3 questions, and we're there.
Well, if we give a client who like triggers easily, number 1, they don't trigger easily afterwards, and number 2, if they do trigger, they're not swept away by their emotions. They're totally in control and can do the 3 questions like Terry was saying. So there's a huge difference.
Yeah, it only takes a few seconds and you're out of it, completely out of it, neutralized. It's amazing. Now, it starts a little slow at first until you get used to it. But after that, it takes me 5 seconds or less, and I'm out of a trigger. And I've been in a full-blown trigger before a few months ago. But as soon as I was aware of it, which only took a few seconds, because I teach this, right? As soon as I was aware of it, I went through the 3 questions, found the person that needed to neutralize it, neutralized them, did the neutralization wording, and I was done. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 10 weeks of the wrap-up show and suicide prevention. We have enjoyed this very much. We look forward to you hopping in and in our chat here on the Evolutionary Healer page and ask us your questions. For some of you, maybe you want to be practitioners. Hop in the chat and we'll tell you how you become it. Okay? See, our process is a preliminary requirement to go into the training. There is no better textbook in the world than your own journey in life and how you found the block and took care of it. So it's very important. So please reach out to us here at Evolutionary Healer. Linda, any final thoughts?
Well, I was going to share how emotions and allowing them to pass through you. And so like if fear is coming at you, that's one of the emotions, right? A lot of entrepreneurs deal with, especially in the early stages of entrepreneurship or empaths. It's about going to the back of your heart, and our master Julie Jacobic teaches that. And what happens when you go to the back of your heart? Actually, your shoulders go back and they kind of come down, and you're relaxed. And then my shaman Mylene Belke taught me to like open my arms up, kind of like, you know, the ballerina arms, and just allow emotions to pass through. And that has been so helpful to so many of like my book and 30-day clients, because oh my gosh, that's an emotional journey in and of itself. And what I do with those clients especially is get them to the level of their soul so that we're connecting soul to soul. And then I always teach the soul works in onesies. And so if you're poofing off the planet tomorrow and there's only one thing that you want to let the rest of us know, what is it? And I can totally get people's messaging and teachings in order out of doing that process. So yeah.
So who are we really? Who are we really? Google us. I'm Terry Earthwind Nichols. Google that, and you'll get everything you need to know about me. Linda Vetras Nichols, Google it. You'll find everything you want. Or you can just go to evolutionaryhealer.com, and there's everything. Okay?
Or LindaVetrasNichols.com.
Or LindaVetrasNichols.com.
Because I do clarity sessions for people.
Yeah. And they're incredible credit. I've been through them. It's very cool. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining in. And for those of you who are picking this up as a recording, thank you so much for doing so. Please, please, please share this knowledge to people that we can help. This is why we're in this business, because we want to help people.
Yep. And what do we work with? Self-sabotage, procrastination, PTSD, complex PTSD, military sexual trauma, suicide ideation,
smoking, weight issues, the list goes on and on.
And we work with entrepreneurs and their businesses, because we're well-rounded coaches as well.
Yeah, we do some pretty neat visionary strategy sessions. That's brand new. It's coming out soon. Thank you again. I'm Terry Earthwind Nichols at Evolutionary TV, along with
Linda Vetras Nichols.
Thanks again, everybody.